John Monroe here. Finding myself in Glasgow today, where I'm with family, visiting the city for a few days at the end of the year, bringing in the new year here, and just taking a little chance today to get out a little bit in the city on my bike and have a look at, like what I'm on here, some of the cycling infrastructure improvements that they're making in the city. I'm in the neighborhood of Yoker right now, and this is actually personally very significant for me because this is the city that I was born in, and I used to live until I was 6 years old on this street right up here. It's called, I think it's called Spears Hall Close now, but it used to be called Langholm Street when I lived here back in the 1970s, and I lived right in the first building there on the middle floor. So this is a nice place for me to start my little adventure of the city. Okay, turning back onto what was once Langholm Street here, and again, there's where I used to live, on the middle floor in that building. We used to play in this street. There were less cars back then and they were less big, but also I must say the street, as I remember, was a lot of broken glass in the street. It was pretty rough. The street was itself pretty notorious, I believe. It was one of the reasons why my mom wanted to move away to Canada, which we did when I was 6. So on one of these walls, actually, I'm a historian, and on was one of these walls, or the walls around here, where I learned my first historical date, which was 1690, which will give people an idea of the kind of sectarianism. We were one of the only Catholic families in the street, so I knew that meant everybody wasn't necessarily friendly towards us. But there was also a real sense of community too. I remember that as well, the neighbors and so on. But anyways, I'm here to take a look at some of the cycling infrastructure. I used to play under this bridge. It looked a lot different back then too. And it certainly didn't have this bike path. So we begin with that. They, at some point, not too recently, it's been here for a while. This was an old railway line, so just one of those easy wins for the city to repurpose an old railway line for cycling, traffic, dog walkers, what have you. And that's just what you see along here. It's just getting light. You might think it's really early in the morning, but it's 25 to 9. The days are short, especially this far north this time of the year. So I'm riding from Yoker towards the city center, and I don't have time to do an extensive infrastructure tour on this trip, but I did want to capture a few of the things that they're doing here and a few of the challenges that it seems like they're facing, because they seem very instructive for other cities, not least Birmingham, England, where I live. So let me cut here, and I'll put the camera back on when I get to the end of this disused railway line cycling way, which again is very nice, and show a bit of a sense of kind of where it ends and what it spills out onto, which is less nice. Okay, more in a minute. Getting a bit closer to the end of the line here, and just been very much enjoying this section of the ride. These beautiful Glasgow buildings of flats, a little bit of the old shipyards there. Many of my family members worked in the various shipyards along the Clyde there. When I lived on Langholm Street, I lived with my mother and my grandmother, my granny, and her 2 brothers, my mom's 2 uncles, and they would go every day to the shipyard. It was like a 5-minute walk. Langholm Street was, in the 1970s, Langholm Street was probably closer to the 19th century in experience than the 21st. There was no central heating and No refrigeration, no phone. It's a different world. And again, as I said, part of the roughness of it too, and that sectarian kind of situation, prompted my mom to want to move to Canada, where my dad had gone ahead to find work. And of course, that's a very colonial story. We moved to Squamish and Tsleil-Waututh territory in the city that's currently called Vancouver. And we were just able to do that, move on to someone else's land. Just a reminder of all the ways that Glasgow is connected to the history of colonialism, not as legacy, but as current structure. That was 40 odd years ago. I'm 51, and we moved when I was 6, so in the grand scheme of things, not very long ago. Okay, so I'm coming to the end of this path here, and it's just interesting because they did, you know, such a good job of getting this going, and I imagine it's quite popular with everyone who uses it. Then it kind of spills out into this area that seems really in need of a bit more attention in terms of opening up the space for a variety of ways of getting around. Let's take a look here. So you come down here, and then it's this road. It's not that busy, but the cars that I saw on it coming out the way, because I'm staying in the city center, so I rode up earlier this morning, and the cars that I saw coming out were going so fast. Okay, let me join the road here. I think the idea is that you're supposed to cross and ride on the sidewalk on the pavement over there. So it's a pretty bad option. And it's just such a contrast. Look at it now. It's such a contrast. Not that many people would want to ride on here. Not that many people would feel safe. In great contrast to how nice that path was. So the promise of that path remains a little unrealized, it seems, in terms of all this. And this is the river is just right there. You can't quite see it from here, but it's very close on my right. And there's new housing development. You can see on my right those taller buildings, but I think most of those have been there for some years. And this area here is more slow to develop. I have no idea what's going on. And again, this is a tourist perspective. Basically, I'm originally from here, but I don't live here. I can make no claims to local knowledge. But it's more, Glasgow's doing some really interesting and really exciting things on the infrastructure front. And I just feel like other cities, again, especially Birmingham where I live, have something to learn from that. Okay, so here is just a very typical situation up here. It's tragic, really, and it's one that I think many British cities kind of suffer from. So what I'm talking about is, over here on my right is this being developed area, waterfront, and just over there on the other side of that elevated freeway is this lovely neighborhood, Thornwood, and in between is this barrier, not just the elevated one, but even on the ground here, it's, as you can see, like, who would want to come through here? But let me just get to the other side, because it's so nice over there. Okay, I kind of take my chances here in the roundabout. It's such a big one. It's so hostile for being on a bike. Okay, I made it. So look at this. These beautiful buildings. There are some pubs. There's a spot a little further on where I had a breakfast, a very nice breakfast roll. I recommend the Wee Bakery, it's called, just a bit further up. And it's just like, look at that bleak, a drive-through Burger King, and just this, you know, very unfriendly roundabout. It really needs some work. And the great news is I know of the fact that some local politicians are indeed working on this question and trying to connect these things up. There's just so much potential for the people in this neighborhood to have access to the waterfront over there, especially when it's fully developed. And then also to ensure that waterfront along there, which was once the shipyards, will indeed be public space that everybody in all these neighborhoods can enjoy, rather than just the people who will be living in those more expensive new developments up the road. Thank you. I want to turn right here, but I'm a little nervous. Okay, I can do it. Oh, there's the wee bakery. Check it out if you're in this area. Okay. So yeah, it's just this bad rough patch. But then, when you get through here, there's some kind of shared path. It gets better. It gets better. So you go back up onto the pavement here. I'm not going to go through this tunnel because I'm heading back towards the city. Look at these bollards. Wonder how that happened. And now I'm back on these kind of shared paths. They're not ideal, but they're not bad. They're not bad. And when I was coming out earlier, coming the other way out towards Yoker, there were quite a few commuters coming in. No surprise. So it's used because it's clearly the safest way to get through, but they probably need to figure out something. I mean, they definitely need to figure out that Thornwood roundabout area. And just seems this entire freeway here, motorway, is just such a barrier between the waterfront and the neighborhoods over here all the way along. It seems like, what is it called? The Grand Embarcadero idea that some people in San Francisco are working on. It's what they could really use here. Because why the hell do they need a motorway going through, cutting off the waterfront from the city proper? Okay, so underpass here again. I mean, I feel reasonably okay, but like not everybody would feel safe coming through here, especially when it's dark for so many hours in the winter time. So it's not the most encouraging to get everybody out riding. Okay, let me stop rambling, turn the camera off for a little bit so I get a little closer to the city center and pick it up down there. It's coming to the part now where it's a path that joins onto the river. There's the Waverly, old boat that cruises up and down the Clyde still. So you can see I'm gonna go along here, along the waterfront here, but it also seems like there's quite a bit of potential for a waterfront walking and cycling area, like all the way down potentially. And then the other side, there's not too much happening over there, and hasn't for some time, I don't think. So here's hoping that as the property developers get their hands on this waterfront property, that there's also public space prioritized as part of it, which I think they generally do here. I think most spaces along the river people have access to, as I do here at the moment. Okay, so there's the BBC building, so getting more into the city center here. And again, it's interesting to try to think about two conversations connected in Glasgow. One about colonialism and the city, the decolonizing Glasgow idea, bringing attention to the ways that this city, second city of the British Empire, as it was sometimes called, is connected to larger colonial histories, and the way that some of the rich people of this town got rich through the processes of enslavement and settler colonial genocide in the Americas. I'm not there yet, but I'll be coming up to Jamaica Street, which is in, no coincidence, Merchant City area. So the ways that the wealth of this city, a city that had, lots of grinding poverty too, for locals, but also it's just very connected to colonialism. And I think everybody in the city knows that. That's not a particularly original insight. But But then there's also this other conversation about cycling, walking, cars, public space, that whole discourse. And it feels like maybe there's some opportunities to link those discussions in the ways that car culture as a kind of form of propertied individualism, those who own cars have the right to more public space and are able to occupy it in kind of sometimes dangerous and violent ways, can perhaps be seen. I don't have the definitive answer here, but I think it's a discussion that could be had from the kind of that long colonial logic of the white man with property having more rights than anyone else, above everyone else. And of course, car culture is not specifically and exclusively white, but maybe there's a way that the liberal individual with property, which very much is a concept coming out of colonial histories, connects in legacy ways with the ways that automobility works as an expression of a structure of power in a city like Glasgow and in lots of other cities besides. So, I don't know. Maybe there's more to be said about that. So I've drifted a little bit off the path here. So again, it's partly because I don't totally know what I'm doing, but it's also partly because some parts of the path in are just reliant on riding on the pavements, which always feels strange to me and is, you know, substandard when pedestrians should just have the pavement to themselves and have priority for that and for jogging and strolling and all the things people might want to do. Okay, so now I'm coming into the city center proper here. I'm looking for the squiggly bridge because I want to cross over to the south side of the city and have a look at I think it's Victoria Street apparently has a bike lane of note. So let's see if I can get closer to the squiggly bridge and find my way across to the south from there. Okay, I believe this is the bridge I'm looking for, which I think is a pedestrian and cyclist only. So we've got some shared use here, but it's pretty wide, so it feels like there's enough room. I mean, it's a pretty wintry day, but maybe in the summer it's a bit more crowded. All right, well, this looks nice. Okay. Here we go. Oh, this is nice. Excuse me, what do you call this bridge?
The Squiggly Bridge.
Squiggly Bridge, I thought so, yeah, thank you. Squiggly Bridge it is. I wasn't totally sure. Well, cool. Very nice. And again, it just like, let's just look back and just see, like, we're in a prominent place here. There's the city center, like the kind of core of the city center. So we're, you know, this is the city making an announcement that, oh, and this looks nice too, look at this. That cyclists and pedestrians have, like, ought to have a bridge. Oh, I'm just gonna follow this person. Now, I'm really unfamiliar with the south side of the city because whenever I come here, I have friends and family here, but they live in Mary Hill and areas on the northern side of the city, so I'm always over there. Okay, not quite sure. Oh, the bike lane ends. Oh, I think I went the wrong way. Okay, that's all right. The design looks pretty good. I think I just went the wrong way. Oh yeah, I see what I did wrong. Okay, let's go over here then. It's one nice thing about being on a bike is if you screw up and go the wrong way, you can just hop off and correct yourself easily enough. Oh, this looks great. So I think I'm looking for Victoria Street, but I think if I can stop and look at my phone if I need to, but I think if I follow this street, I don't know what it's called, all the way down, and then it turns left, as I looked on the map earlier before I left my hotel, then I think that'll take me over to Victoria, and then I can check out the bike lane over there. But this is already really good. I thought I was going to be riding along cars only roads to get to this bike lane, but nice work. And yeah, again, as is always the case, it narrows the space for cars in a way that makes drivers drive more safely. It's just like one of the biggest bonuses. People sometimes worry about the extent to which bike lanes are used or not. Fine. There's all kinds of discussions and debates about that. Many of them are not very enlightening. But for me, if a bike lane gets put in, if no cyclist ever used it once, it's still getting us ahead because it calms the car traffic in the road by giving them less space and therefore less license to drive dangerously. So this looks like it does just that. I mean, there's obviously still tons of space for cars here, but overall pretty good. Okay, so what do I got to do here? What do I have to do here? Go up and cut in? Go onto the pavement? Yeah, I guess just like that guy's going that way. I see. It does make for a bit of a pinch point between cyclists and pedestrians there, though, if it was busy. Maybe I'll try going this other way up here. It looks like there might be a little place to cut in from the... Oh, but it's one way. No, okay, that's a bad idea. I guess this is also a nice reason, or a nice kind of outcome when they paint the cycle lanes a different color. Then you can see very obviously where you need to go. Birmingham has this one lane, and it's blue, so you always kind of know where you're going and where you're supposed to go. But I mean, even on this little part of this ride, I think I've seen more cycling infrastructure than in the entirety of Birmingham, I'm sure. And Birmingham is a bigger city too, so again, Glasgow leading here, even if they do have more to do. Oh, this is great. And oh yeah, let me point out these too. These little rest station things are just such a nice little feature. And again, it says something. It says something about what the city cares about. Will make it easier for you to rest your foot and your hand as you're making your way. It's just a good encouragement for this form of mobility. Yeah, I mean, I guess this was probably a pretty easy street to put one of these on. It's way too wide for cars. Got all those lanes. And it's easy for someone like me, who has no expertise, just someone with an interest really in public space and the politics of it, to ride around criticizing everybody all the time. Because a crucial, I think I want to go this way. A crucial component to keep in mind is there's so much to undo. The post-war planners and road engineers, I mean, many of them are still doing so much damage, like at that, you know, brand new drive-through Burger King we saw back there. A lot of damage is still being done, but people are working at Glasgow. Oh, so important to mention. Glasgow is working towards moratorium on new, you know, big chain fast food drive-throughs. Wow, we could use that in Birmingham, that's for sure. They just put in a new McDonald's drive-through right in the area where they had the Commonwealth Games, so just kind of, again, an announcement of the priorities, that they'll give planning permission for that, especially in the symbolic kind of place where, I don't know, Commonwealth Games are so problematic anyways, but there's supposed to be this idea of legacy. Okay, so here's the difference when you have a painted bike lane versus a protected one. Just a parking spot for drivers, if they so choose, nothing to stop them. And if this was a family, if I was with my kids, going around, that driver would have been pretty unpleasant and dangerous. Nice one. Okay, so here I'm a little unsure. I think I go straight. So I'm clearly under, oh, maybe I'm under the train tracks here. I'm not sure. Again, I'm a little out of my depth as in terms of directions here, but that's okay. I think I'm getting to the bike lane that I want to see. Okay, another painted one here, which is something, but oh, putting you really in the door zone here as well. This is pretty bad. Sometimes it might be better if they just didn't have it. And in fact, I think there is studies that show that drivers can be more reckless when there's painted bike lanes, because they kind of feel like, well, you have something there, some cycling infrastructure, so they don't have to be as careful as when you're just in the road. So sometimes the painted lane can actually make things more dangerous for cyclists. All right, well, this is maybe this is Victoria Road now, because look at this nice lane as well. See if I can see a street sign. So this is also good because even though there's bits and pieces that need work, I came in from Yoker, which is coming from the west into the city. Now I'm heading south. So even in these two directions, there's the one heading west from the city and the one heading south. At least we have, like, you know, a sense of the importance of multiple directions. Birmingham has this one lane. It's kind of one lane divided into two, or two lanes, depending on which way you want to see it, but comes into the city from a couple of directions, but other directions into the city remain extremely dangerous, and just no cycling infrastructure at all. Okay, well, this, I wonder if this is the one. I'm going to have a look at my phone here just to see where I am, and go from there, because I wonder if this is Victoria Street or not. Okay, beware cyclists on the left, and a cycling light sign there. The little things, they matter, they add up. There's Victoria House. That should have been a clue, but yes, this is Victoria Road too, not Victoria Street, my mistake. But what a nice recommendation to come and check this out, because this is really good and exactly the kind of thing that so many British cities need a lot more of. Okay, that's enough rambling for now. I'm gonna check out a couple of more different spaces in the city, maybe even tomorrow. Thank you. And see what else I can report on. Okay, so signing off from this quite nice bike lane on Victoria Road. One more thing about the Victoria Road bike lane. I decided to ride it to the end before turning back to the city center, at which point I came across this lovely big park, Queen's Park, which you can ride up the hill, which I just did, and for this nice reward of this great view of the city. So again, it's just a couple days before the end of the year, 2022. So it's typically overcast and a little gloomy, but this must be just great in the summer, and it's even really nice right now. So Victoria Road, if you come out this way, take Victoria Road to the end and check out Queen's Park, because this is very nice. So I'm out in the eastern part of the city with my friend Mike on a nice ride, and we're out by Celtic Park, which is just over there. And we just found this really nice park along the river with this new housing on the other side that's connected by this very nice cycling and walking and jogging bridge. It doesn't even look that new. It looks like it's been here for a while. So just nice crossing over the river here to this whole new housing development. It looks like more in the distance there over here. So just a nice little bit of infrastructure worthy of note. Making my way back to the city center from Mary Hill, just visiting my cousin and marveling. This was something I wanted to see so bad, was this new bridge over the canal, and marveling at what a job they've done. I knew it was going to be cool, but my goodness. This has to be the very best. See you later. This has to be the very best piece of cycling and pedestrian infrastructure in the UK, surely. It's a wonder, and it just shows us what's possible. The surface is great, it's lots of grip. It's nicely lit. Is the junction of the canals here that I'm passing over. Just bravo. And this is what we can have. In Birmingham, they built a pedestrian and cyclist bridge over a canal in the Selly Oak area of the city, and I mean, it leaves so much to be desired, and now we see what can be done. It just sets the standard for everywhere else. So yeah, great. This is what we can have, I guess, if they figure out a way to do it. I know that this kind of infrastructure is not cheap, but they somehow figured out a way to do it in Glasgow, and obviously political will must have been a big part of how they arrived at such a great place. So even though the canals, you know, always important to note, are not really cycling infrastructure, if they are going to put it in places where they need it, like that junction there, it's just makes such a difference. And what a highlight to this ride home I'm having. So in addition to that great cycling and walking bridge over the canal that I looked at last night, probably the biggest infrastructure project for cycling and walking in the city of Glasgow at the moment is this large rust-colored, still incomplete bridge that is connecting the city center, which is to my south, and the community of Sight Hill, which is just over there to my north. And this is going to be obviously a great way to connect these two significant parts of the city. And particularly for Sight Hill, which is a community that was cut off from the city center for generations in ways that were undoubtedly detrimental for the people who lived over here. One other thing about this new bridge, I mean, again, you can kind of get a sense of it from here, amazing that it's going to be, is it also raises the question of what is the barrier that this bridge needs to be built to get over and to connect communities. And of course, that barrier is the M8 motorway, which you can also see right here. And there's a really interesting conversation right now in Glasgow about the M8 and the future of the M8, which maybe we can get a bit of a sense of by looking at this motorway from a few other angles. So one of the first things to notice about the M8 is not just the freeway itself, but all the adjacent freeways it connects to, the off-ramps, just the sheer amount of space that this takes up, the sheer amount of public space that this motorway devotes to the private property of car vehicles. A second related thing to notice is just the sheer amount of demand infrastructure like this induces for private automobiles. There's clearly a kind of road engineering and city planning sensibility in which men with cars design cities for themselves and people like them in ways that encourage further and further car driving use, such that we see the situation that we have here, which again just makes this huge divide between the city center and other parts of the city. So one other thing, a third thing that's really noticeable about the M8 and what it does is what it does for the architectural heritage and aesthetics of this city. Here's the Mitchell Library, and cutting right in front of it is that huge chasm in between these other two parts of the M8 motorway here. So the M8 also has the effect of rendering a very ugly what otherwise can be beautiful in a city. But the last thing I'll say about the M8 situation is, as bad as the M8 is for the city, and of course there's questions to be asked and a conversation to be had about the ways in which some people need to use cars, blue badge holders of course, and others are going to need to use cars for different things in the city of the future as well as the city of the present. But the way that the M8 induces demand far beyond that, I think, is also something that warrants attention. But the inspirational thing about Glasgow is they're having that conversation. In the Glasgow Times today, the very day I'm filming this last little bit of this video of my trip to Glasgow, there's a column there in which a local city councillor is calling for exactly a rethink of this infrastructure. And of course, the Replace the M8 campaign is also doing amazing work in bringing this to public attention in ways that that connects to the infrastructural problems of automobility in cities across the UK and around the world. So so that's it for me from Glasgow. There's a lot happening here. It seems like the city is you know, it's not perfect for cycling and walking, that's for sure. They have a lot of work to do, but they're doing it. They're getting on with it. They're talking about it, and they're figuring out ways to make a better place where mobility can be more democratic for a variety of ways of moving through urban space. So thanks for watching.